Alison Posey here with Luke Loucks, ACC champion, former NBA assistant coach, the new head coach of the Florida State Seminoles, your alma mater. Luke, when you come back in the basketball training center, just what is it like being in here, not as a player, but as the head coach of Florida State?
Yeah, it's a little different, obviously, and my career has switched very quickly from being a player to a coach, and most of that up until now has been at the NBA level, and I've checked off almost every box at the NBA level. But now being back here, all I know is being a player here. So last night I was finishing up. It was pretty late at night. I'm working as hard as I can. It's about 9:30, and I hear the ball bouncing. I walk in the gym, and we got two guys shooting. And my first instinct is I want to shoot with them, right? This is my court. This is where I got better. And so, but it was cool. It was cool to walk them through and just how happy I was to hear that late at night, where they could be, at home playing video games, out with their friends, doing whatever they want to do, and they're in here trying to get better. So it is definitely different, but I'm embracing it, full head of steam, and we're enjoying it so far.
What's the same, what's different about it? Not just here, but Florida State, Tallahassee.
Well, Tallahassee has grown tremendously around the town. Everywhere I go, I'm like, oh, that wasn't there, that wasn't there. I even drove to where we used to live as the basketball team, and it doesn't exist anymore. It's been bulldozed down, built over, so that the town, in a very good way, has grown. There's new restaurants. Everyone's asking, have you been here? Have you been here? And I haven't, because I've never even heard of these places. But now what hasn't changed is the community I fell in love with. I have so many close family friends who now have spouses and kids, and it's so fortunate for me to come back to a familiar place where there's already a built-in community, not only for me, but for my wife and for our children too.
You talk about a familiar community, and I know this is a job that you said if you had the chance, you would want to come back here. And I don't know if you know this, but Athletic Director Michael Alford said that he's had his eye on you for a couple of years. When that dream kind of became a reality, how did that all initiate? And again, now that you are here, is it still kind of a pinch me moment that what you wanted to do is actually happening?
Yeah, 100%. As a player, you always want to reach the professional level, right? That's your goal from the time you're a kid. You don't think about, like, I'm going to max out here, right? Your goal is to make the NBA. I didn't make the NBA. I made the minor leagues of the NBA, and then I made the European professional leagues, which was a tremendous experience. And it's the same thing in coaching. When you start at the bottom, I started as an intern, making minimum wage, and I learned everything about coaching, right? And it's way different than being a player. The preparation, the time commitment, how to watch film, terminology, how to prepare, how to teach. But when you start that, it's the same thing as being a player. Most people, definitely myself, eventually you want to be the head coach, and you want to be prepared. Most importantly, when that comes up. So my whole career, obviously with that goal in mind, is eventually I want to run my own program. I always thought it was going to be at the NBA level, Now that's life. God opens doors, and you got to choose to walk through them, or you got to choose to shut them. This door, in the back of my mind, I always knew it could be a possibility, just with my relationship with Coach Ham, my relationship with the program, with the administration. But I never thought it would be a reality this quickly. And fortunately enough, obviously Michael did a lot of homework, followed my career, and I didn't realize that at the time. But yeah, it happened quickly, and I'm super thrilled and excited to be here.
You've talked about the culture being here as a player, and there's a lot of now coaches that are former players, Link Jarrett, Brooke Wyckoff, right. Amy Bond, Jennifer Hyde, right, who were players here at Florida State, and now you kind of join the ranks as them. Is there a little bit more pressure in that, knowing that I'm going to now wear the garnet and gold as a coach when I did wear it as a player? And you're not only doing that, but you're also following the guy that coached you. Is that intimidating? Is there pressure with that? What are those feelings like?
Not at all. Joe Mazzulla, the head coach of the Boston Celtics, had a great line when he was talking about pressure for one of his players, Jason Tatum. It's not I have to do that. I get to do this. This is this is a privilege, right? This when you're at your dream job, there's no pressure to. I'm never going to fill Coach Hamilton's shoes because we're two completely different coaches, two completely different men. But there are a lot of characteristics and the foundation he laid that I'm going to try to build upon. And you mentioned a lot of coaches here have ties to Florida State. I've known Brooke since I played here. My little sister played for her for a season at Florida State. All of the coaches community at Florida State have reached out to me, which was unbelievable to get to text with them and get to know them a little bit. But there is a special bond with the university when you were an athlete here and you know what it means. And especially an athlete here that succeeded at some level, that tasted championships, you know what goes into it. So really, I don't feel any pressure at all. More so than anything, it is an absolute honor and privilege to do this and get to wake up every morning with the idea of how do I make this place into a consistent championship level program.
Have you talked to Link or any of them, and have they given you any advice?
Yeah, first they were just welcoming me to town. Mike Norvell, Link, Brooke. I talk to Brooke every day. Obviously, we share a home.
You're right there.
We share a home. So, and Brooke and I have texted throughout the years, just different coaching things, different philosophy things. So, but yeah, all the coaches reached out, gave a little advice, where the kids go to school. The basics. Now, we'll build the relationship to the point where I feel like they can help me a little bit. Maybe I can help them a little bit with coaching philosophy, different ways we set the standard. But the reality is it's more of an introduction at this point, especially if we don't have a relationship.
I want to talk about this program now and correlating it with what we were just talking about and being a former player. You talk about being a privilege to be here, not so much pressure, but is there an urgency to turn this program around because it means so much to you?
There's not an urgency because it means so much to me. There's an urgency because that's a standard I set when I do this job, right? And there's a love for this university, and again, an honor to represent this university. But I don't care if I was coaching my daughter's seven-year-old basketball team or soccer team. Maybe that's a little different. But there is a certain level of standard you just set when you lead a group of athletes. There's a way to do things and a way not to do things. And so it's just something I believe in. There's a standard to set. And through that standard and through those relationships you build a championship culture, right? Everyone wants to talk about the results of winning championships. It starts with the process. It starts with the work. It starts with building a set standard of values that you just believe in and you do every day over and over and over again. And through those things you do every day, the results come, right? The process sets, the results come. Again, I am honored to represent the school I played for. But if I was coaching anywhere, I would have the same tenacity and the same passion and enthusiasm to attack every day the same way.
You've talked about that competitive nature before, but what is the Luke Loucks way? When you walk into this gym, what is expected of you every single day?
Yeah, so right now I'm hiring a staff, and I'm actively preparing for the portal and recruiting high school kids all at the same time. And I tell them there's a few things that really, really matter to me, both if you're going to work with me on my staff and partner with me on my staff, and if you're going to play for me, there's a few things that I really care about. All right, it's a high level of character. You have to have a moral compass. I'm not going to coach guys that don't care about the way they treat people, the way they respect people, the way they communicate. That means a lot to me because there's more to this than bouncing a ball and trying to put it in a basket. A high level, like you said, of competitiveness. You have to have a competitive spirit about you to succeed at the highest level. If you don't, you will always come up short. And then an absolute desire to improve. And I hope I'm a pit stop on these athletes' journey and my staff's journey to wherever they need to go. I'm surrounding myself with coaches that already were, but eventually want to be head coaches again. And I'm going to fill my team with guys that want to reach a professional level at some rank. Now, everyone's not going to make the NBA. We're not going to have 15 NBA players every year. But the fact of the matter is I'm going to recruit the most talented guys that are hungriest to reach the next level. And some will be NBA, some will be Europe, some will be Australia. It is our job and our duty and our privilege, again, to help them on their journey, to develop them with the tools they need to not only get there, but succeed once they get there.
You mentioned the staff, so I'm going to ask you, do we have an update in the staff? Have you added some coaches that you can talk to us about?
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to thank the previous staff. Obviously, Leonard Hamilton, I can't say enough about him. Everyone knows how I feel about him. He's like a family member to me. Stan Jones has had a huge impact on my life, both on and off the court. One of the smartest, most brilliant coaches I've ever been around. Another guy that's had an unbelievable career next to Coach Ham's side, has stuck with them, very loyal. And then just going down the staff, Kevin Nickelberry, Jake Morton, AJ Register, Coach Bradley in the weight room. All these guys have built something special here at Florida State, all in different timelines. So first and foremost, I want to thank them, because they left this place in a decent spot where we can come in and try to build on that and continue to improve it. My staff updates, so I've officially hired 2 assistant coaches. We've agreed upon in terms with a few others that I can't comment on because their paperwork's still going through and they're still actively coaching, so I don't want to disrupt their situation. And then I'm in negotiations with my associate head coach. The 2 guys that I've hired so far, Michael Fly. So Michael Fly, when I started at Florida State, he started at Florida State as a coach. Before that, he was in the NBA with the Charlotte Bobcats at the time. Started as a video guy, young assistant for Leonard Hamilton. He went with Andy Enfield to Florida Gulf Coast, where they built that into a Sweet 16 team. When Andy Enfield left for USC, Michael Fly stayed, worked his way up all the way to the head coaching position at Florida Gulf Coast. During COVID, they got let go. He then went with Dennis Gates, helped him the first year in Missouri build that into what Dennis has done at Missouri, and then left from there. Dennis Gates put him with one of his buddies at Jacksonville, Jordan Mincy, and he was the associate head coach at Jacksonville. And then obviously now he's here. He's someone that I trust with on a variety of different levels, a great recruiter, a great person, and an absolute great coach who I trust in a lot of different ways. His last year at Florida Gulf Coast, I think they won 22 or 24 games. So a successful coach and someone who's going to help me in a lot of different ways. The other coach I hired is a guy named Gerald Gillian. So Gerald, I've actually known since I was about 13, 14 years old. His family runs a AAU program, Breakdown, in the state of Florida. That's where I first met Gerald. Gerald actually was a graduate of Florida State as well, close ties to Florida State. And you're gonna find a common theme here. Guys that care, they're tremendous coaches, but that care about Florida State in some level. He went on and coached at almost every different level. USF, he was at Samford with Bucky. He coached, I'm going to forget a couple places. He eventually rose up to be the head coach at Chicago State. So again, another former head coach. And most recently, he was at LIU Brooklyn with Rod Strickland, and they were doing tremendous things this year as well. Another guy, again, a tremendous recruiter, a tremendous teacher, a tremendous person, someone that has high moral character. So both of those guys as assistant coaches, I'm super excited about, and you guys obviously in the coming weeks will get to know them a little bit better.
You mentioned you're going to notice a common theme. How important was that to you in finding a staff that understood? You talk about the culture a lot here at Florida State. They understand the culture here at FSU.
Yeah, it's similar to my story. There's just a little added almost privilege to coach here when you know how special this place can be. There's a brand nationally that Florida State has a perception of being a championship level institution, both educationally and athletically. And when you've experienced that and when you've experienced success here at some level, you know how special that can be. So that is very important to me, that not all, but most of my coaches have some sort of tie to Florida State at that level. And the other thing I'm looking for, so connection to Florida State, obviously I've already hit the characteristics of what I expect of my coaches, but also I'm going to bring in a few MBA assistants that understand what we're trying to do from a developmental standpoint of creating a pipeline from high school to college or transfer portal to our university and then off to the professional ranks. They understand, you have more resources than the MBA, but they understand the structure of what I'm trying to build, and they can help me execute that.
You mentioned the NBA and your experience in the NBA, and you have a ton of experience winning in the NBA too. And you talked about just with the NIL and the portal and college basketball is changing so much. You mentioned before it's just another day in the NBA dealing with money and salaries and stuff. How will your experience there transition? And has it surprised you? Have you been, now that you're in this role officially, has there been any surprises with the way you thought it was to the way that it is?
No surprises. I think the biggest difference in the NBA, the money is already built in through TV contracts, through ownership groups. The money is there, and the difference in this role is some of the money is there, and if you want to take it to the next level, you have to go get the money, and you have to build those relationships with donors and with the community, and that's what I've actively been doing, both to raise new funds, but also to thank those that have given to us in the past. And what a great opportunity to be a part of what we're trying to build here. And so I'm going to continue to ask, both privately in my conversations as I build relationships and publicly, as we build this into a championship level team again, which Hamilton has experienced in the past. We're trying to get back to that. We want to ask the community, those that support us, to continue to support us, both coming to games, supporting our athletes, but also partnering us, having equity in our team, because the reality is we won't have a team if we don't have the resources to go get a team with NIL. That's just the way it's set up. So what we're trying to do is go out in the community, ask, and not ask just for money, right? Even though that's necessary, but ask for a partnership. And we want our fans and our supporters to feel like they helped us build this team. And that's what I'm trying to create here.
That kind of ties into my next question. I wanted to ask you about the community involvement and how important that will be. You kind of answered it there, but what is it going to take to get this program consistently competitive, not just in the ACC, but nationwide?
Yeah, a few different things. It's not just simple as black and white. There's one answer. You have to bring in the right kids. You have to bring in the right staff. You have to have the right support, right? And then it all kind of comes together. The most important thing for me, and I'm going to continue to hit on this, is having a standard of the way you do things, right? And that goes from who you hire, who you recruit, who you evaluate, who you want to partner with in the community, how you address people, how you respect people. And I think when you do all those things, when all those boxes are checked, the results come. And I've seen it at the highest, the pinnacle of the NBA level of when you have a strong culture, when you bring in talent, but not only talent, good people that work hard, and you have a structure in place to support that, the championships come.
I want to ask you a couple final questions, but I want to talk to you about Coach Hamilton and what he means to you. And I know that you said before that he's going to give you advice whether you want it or not. Has he given you any advice yet?
Yeah.
Is he already in your ear?
He 2 minutes before I got down here, he called me and just checking in on you, how you doing? And all he wanted, which is again shows the man he is, all he wanted was my wife's phone number. He's like, listen, my wife wants to connect with your wife. I would also like to speak with your wife. He's like, you can't be on the phone, but we want to lay out what this is going to be like, because they've just lived it, for the better part of their lives. He's been coaching for almost 50 years. So I've never been a head coach at this level. He wants to just lay a foundation of, hey, it's going to be a little different. We're here to support you. So it again just shows the Coach Hamilton is incredible, but the man he is what makes him special, and what former players like myself will always speak so highly of Coach Hamilton.
You mentioned kind of advice as you get this ball rolling, but just what are you looking forward to in the next couple of days, weeks, and months?
Well, three things. We touched on them a little bit. Obviously, completing my staff. Yeah. It's fun to put a staff together with people you trust, people you get to know, people that you want to go to work with every day. So that's the first thing. The second thing, as the portal hits on Monday, building a team, right? And this is the team I'm going to coach. This is the team I'm going to hopefully help develop all these guys to improve their game and get to where they want to go. In the process, they're going to help us win a lot of games. And so it's exciting to evaluate, it's exciting to watch film, it's exciting to build relationships with these guys and their agents and their parents and their coaches on the phone and get to know them, and then set up, visits and all that. And it's thrilling for me to watch it all, take course. The third part in the next months, those are kind of the next days, next weeks, the next months, what I'm really excited is not to do interviews on this court, but to get to work on this court, right? And I cannot wait to have a team and set up drills and set up practice and have the music blasting. It's going to be different for the guys that return. Just the way I do things is very modern. It's very new school. So it's going to be a lot of fun, but we're going to get a lot lot better.
You can go shoot with them?
100%.
Absolutely.
Every day.
All right. We'll see it. Luke, thank you so much
Thank
for the
you so
time.
much.
I appreciate it. Can't wait to see you get to work.
Thank you.
Awesome.